Hopefully, that's one of the hopes. Yeah, so I've got like some nerve issues and my eyes have gotten wonky.
We're
Nice. And is it still fine if I'm like talking more this way, like looking at Sheik?
Yeah, it's okay.
Good.
They also mic'd up, so
Perfect.
all this space is pretty well mic'd.
Nice. What I'm excited about is my Ayurveda doctor was asking me where I was going for the summer, and I was telling her about Portugal and stuff. She's like, okay, so that'll be nice, like a summer getaway, the beach, like all the blah, blah, blah. And then she stopped mid-sentence, just like, oh, wait, you probably don't like summer, do you? Like, heat is really difficult for you? I'm like, yeah, I fucking hate the heat. I despise summer. Like, it's awful. She's like, okay. All right, that's a part of this, like, Vata disorder. Hopefully, once we've got you aligned better, like, you'll be able to stand the heat better. And even, like, after, 4 or 5 months working with her, like, this summer is noticeably easier than pretty much any summer that I can remember. Where, like, I can be outside, notice that I'm really hot. And, like, it's not as much of a problem. It just feels like, oh, the engine's running really hot, but I'm still functional. As opposed to, fuck this fucking shit. Get me inside, get me air conditioning. This is bullshit. Like, yeah. Those are really nice, where, like, there's these things that are already fixing themselves up really well. And that's kind of what has given me the faith of just, like, I'm just going to go to India. Like, I'm no longer lactose sensitive, and I handle heat better. That's 2 down. Just take me to India and fix me.
Harmless.
Yeah. Nice.
Do you feel like your Ayurvedic doctor could sense a huge portion of your personality through your...
There's a lot of stuff where she will just stop me and say something. And it's right, like, every time. Down to weirdly specific shit where we were getting really into, like, the Vata disorder that exists. And she was like, so did you used to have, like, a really good relationship with music in some way? And then, like, now it just feels dead? I'm like, yeah, right around my teen years, they kind of beat it out of me, like, made me play piano every day, playing religious music to practice in a dark room at school. She's like, okay, yeah. Finding your love of music again is going to be, like, really helpful for rebalancing this Vata. I'm just like, all right, cool, let's find music.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. My big sense working with her continues to be that, like, after a while I'm just going to be, like, a pro at navigating, like, mind, body, heart as, like, a single thing. Because it's getting harder and harder to ignore all the ways of, like, oh, like... They're all just a single thing constantly anyway, and a signal from over here is really indicative of what's going on over here. And it now seems really weird that I have had, even as much as I care about, like, somatics and soul and blah, that I've still had such a strong, like, division of those things. Of, like, there's my physical body and the symptoms there, and then there's what I'm feeling, and they're kind of connected, and yeah, this has just made it really clear of, like, oh no, they're one thing. And you're missing out on so much if you don't treat them as one thing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed even like in the teapot journey or like all these topics, I keep like thinking like, oh, okay, now I get it and getting mind blown. It reminds me of the famous Romeo Stevens tweet of like, if you behave well, you will have ice cream and I don't remember the really good formulation.
Contracting your body in ice cream.
Maximization.
Yeah, something like that.
So like events like that, yeah, my first read was like, oh yeah, you can get traumas and stuff like that, and it will mold your like emotional and like psychological.
Yep.
But no, actually, it like can give you like allergies or stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, they're very direct. There's one I know. Sorry, should we? Okay. There was one I noticed. I think it was like a year or 2 ago now. Like. From the way that I walk, and like just when I was meditating, something came up of like, oh right, this girl I went to high school with, who like I had a crush on, and then we were dating for a while, and then we were on and off for a while. She made one comment about like the way that I walk as a teenager, and then like as a 30-year-old, it finally clicked of like, I've been holding that like in my hips and the way that I walk for 15 years, and yeah, just like, and it. Kind of just like dissolved immediately because it was immediately hilarious. It just like, I've been letting a 15-year-old girl dominate the way that I walk for like most of my adult life. That's funny. Yeah, that was messed up.
Wow.
I have a bunch of stuff like that. I keep a note on my phone called the cringe list. And it's just those moments that just come to you in the shower of you just absolutely embarrassing yourself. Or just stuff that hurts you way more than it should have. Like in retrospect, it's funny.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a list of those
Nice.
things.
That's a good idea.
I'm very lucky I don't like do those ever like keep you awake at night? People talk about
They
that
have
a lot.
once or twice.
I'm really lucky I don't get that.
They just shape the whole way you're walking.
Yeah, they just shape my walking gait for 15 years, but I sleep great. I sleep fine, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. I need to do some introspection after this podcast because it brings memories
They
of...
get messed up, yeah. There's other ones back there. It's like, oh my god, there's been a 6-year-old boy like dominating how I hold my shoulders or the way that I like express affection or little things like that. There's so many of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a thing that's like particularly a childhood, or do you guys also have forming, cringing memories that happen at adulthood as well?
A lot of teen stuff.
Yeah. One particular big teen thing, yeah. But scattered ones. Adulthood for you?
Yeah. Early adulthood, at least, definitely. So, like, 19, 20, 21.
What's the quality? Because I can only think of one. And that one is like less cute, funny, weird little thing and more like, oh, she showed me the darkness of my fucking soul and it took me like 6 months to recover. Is yours still like an embarrassing little foible or is it darker?
Oh,
No,
mine is more like that.
Okay, yeah.
Mine are like heavily about simping for girls
Okay.
and later simping for potential employers or investments in ways that don't feel like totally like whole and aligned.
Yeah.
Right? And that in retrospect are embarrassing because of that.
Yeah, I get that.
That's as well in friendship, yeah. I've got some stuff like that as well. Noticing how I think for like friendships I particularly care about or which reflect a particular person of mine that I attach too much to or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one for me because I've spent my entire life dating like avoidantly attached women mostly. That's just where I am drawn. That is my curse to bear. But like, yeah, that has gotten tied in with like, on the one hand, there's kind of the internal, don't simp, don't be too like anxious, don't be like, show them that you like them essentially, it'll scare them off.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, that is like not my thing that like sits in my chest. And on the other hand, large parts of it are just like almost like strategy and like proper handling of avoidant people is like, okay, learn their boundaries, learn how they like to be treated. And those two things have gotten like pretty tied in together for me. And yeah, a lot of the time I feel good about how I handle interactions, but sometimes there are ones where I come away and I'm like, was that one like proper handling or was that just because I have this max?
Right, because sometimes the person would respond to like more affection or more attention, and you just acted totally disinterested because of like a previous
Or
knowledge.
the opposite way where like, that you should like give them more space, be away a little more, and then you just like slip in like, how you doing, what's up, what's going on? And it's like, oh, that one wasn't great, that was just okay, fuck, let us slip through. Yeah, some of the knots get very wound in with adaptive stuff. Yeah.
So then you need to get shit at handling. If you want to fix your trauma, you need to get way worse at handling avoidant people before it gets better.
Yes, I will. Yeah, that is part of like a arc that I'm on. It's like, okay, how do I stop being attracted to avoidant women and just lose that skill set entirely?
That sounds like how do I not hit the tree or
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I was on a talk with someone yesterday, and what was coming up was like, she was like, okay, so like go find an avoidant girl or something and go see how that works out for you. And what came up, I was like, oh, I don't even know how to recognize them. I apparently have no radar. I can't. And then like it just came to mind. I have like a long thread somewhere, but I think this is a common experience of like a girl who's really, really into you and like coming at you, and you don't notice till like years later. You're like, oh God, she was into me, wasn't she?
Uh-huh.
I've had a lot of those, and looking back on them, I'm like, oh, I think they were all anxiously attached. And for some reason that made them completely invisible to me. Even, and that's the weird bit, is even in cases where there's 2 or 3 of them that like, I really liked. I would have really liked to like date them, hang out with them, hook out with them, whatever. And still their approaches were completely invisible to me. And that feels fucked up, and I need to fix that now.
I want to ask a question to you.
Sure.
Do you feel like since you've been in a relationship for 7 years, you've had like less opportunity to face all like these shadows that can pop from like having this new relationship and stuff like that?
Definitely, yeah. And honestly, my bias for the longest time was avoidant women, too. Like, but I met Bia on Twitter, and I guess the fact that it's not in person, like, he's not avoidant at all, and I don't know. Like, I feel pretty securely attached with her, and vice versa. So I just think I won a big prize without even noticing, because I think I could have easily been stuck dating avoidant women for a long time.
Wow. Twitter success story.
You escaped, man. You got out of the matrix.
Cool. Should we properly introduce River, or let River introduce himself?
Introduce me. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, no one wants to do that. I understand. I wouldn't want to.
I feel like I won't give you like
justice.
I won't make justice to the stuff that you've been doing for a long time. Well, the way I know you from Twitter is this is River Kenna, by the way. The way I know River is I started following you when I saw your threads about traveling in Asia, like Korea, Vietnam.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I thought you had really good stories and like reflections on them.
So way back in the day.
Yeah, way back. Yeah. And you've since sort of changed your Twitter presence completely and become you went from a chick to a buffalo. Your avatar used to be a little like a chick,
okay,
right?
Yes. Baby chicken.
Oh,
yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
That was.
To a buffalo that writes a very prolific blog about, I'm gonna say buzzwords, but you can correct me, like mythopoetic stuff, somatic, like somatic things, active imagination, Ian McGilchrist. Yeah.
These are good buzzwords.
Thank
I
you.
approve of these buzzwords. Yeah.
Good. Would you add any buzzwords?
An emerging one is like, not ones that mean like anything. Like psychozoic metis is like, come back next year and I'll figure out what the fuck that means in English. I'll get back to it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's part of the. So one of the it brings me to the Kiki question that you wrote.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Because I was gonna say like no, maybe ask it first.
Okay. So we've just looked at all these buzzwords that don't mean anything. Are you a grifter?
Yes. Oh shit.
You heard it here first.
God damn it. No, I assume you saw my tweet from last week about Inju.
Yeah, about Inju.
Yeah, it was very, for context. Like, Inju, we were out getting lunch, and when we were walking back, she was like, okay, I had to meet you in person. I couldn't tell online if you were like a grifter or genuine. I was like, honestly, I get that. Like, that sounds about right. And part of that is the fault of some people here. Brent and Tashin were good coaches / bullies a year or two ago to be like, hey, you've got really good material and you need to like pay rent and survive. Learn how to market and advertise.
Yeah.
And it often feels very grifty to me. Of like, how do you express a thing that because before I made any of this stuff, I could talk about somatic meditation all the time, imaginal work all the time, and it felt very pure and clean, and I just love it so much. The second it became like, I love this so much that I made a thing about it, and now you can go and buy that, it got much harder to talk about any of the subjects.
Because it feels grifty.
Yeah, because it feels
like you're trying
there's
to
just more
point
knots.
people to the thing you're selling.
And I try to recommend like other stuff alongside mine, like go check out Reggie Ray, learn focusing if that's your vibe. Also, I made a course. It's some of my favorite stuff. If you really like what I've written, that might vibe with you. But go check it out. But yeah, it's tough to talk about because.
Yeah.
Hey.
Do you feel like it made me wonder suddenly? You know, like how people talk about like your karma is actually like your own disgust towards your shadow. It's like your like reflection of yourself or something. Do you feel like the grifty elements that people are picking on are just like reflection of your actual disgust for this stuff that like reflects in how you market
Almost
yourself?
definitely. There's that thing of like, if you're talking to someone and you're feeling something, they're almost definitely picking up on it too. That also seems to be the case online very much. But yeah, if I can't naturally promote myself and promote my work and stuff, and it always feels like there's that edge to it, it has that edge to it, right?
It's really, for me, like, I think I had this question as well. Like meeting you in person definitely changed some of the perception I had of you, like same with everyone.
Yeah.
But I think for me it was like reading how you talked about other people's stuff, like how you talked about Jung, or how you talked about like Reggie Ray stuff, which was like a very like, to me it felt like a move towards clarification and towards like, oh, all these people attribute all this bullshit to it and like are very confident and like boastful about that. You don't need all of this bullshit, like just look at what they say and it's already like very rich and fruitful and beautiful.
Yeah. It's a beautiful little field. A lot of concept. Yeah.
I don't have any questions attached to that.
Good, man.
I have questions.
I have other questions.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, we could go into the interpersonal microwave thing, unless you have.
Sure. Good. We feel if it's, I don't know, whatever feels right. The other curiosity I had was about I was curious, intrigued by your interest in like, I remember your like long thread about alternate history.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you've talked already about that a lot, I don't know, but I find it like really curious and I don't know where is that from and where, it sounds like a autistic special interest and also...
I don't know, it's a bunch of stuff. Part of it is, what's his face? I still think of him as existential pervert. What's his thing now? Meaning enjoyer.
Yeah.
Meaning enjoyer just kind of like egged me into it further and further because he just really liked that thread and enjoyed it. And was like, I like you, I like this energy, we're gonna keep pulling this out. But the thread in general was basically, a lot of Trojan horse for me to like throw in ridiculous, crazy historical things. And then also a few things where I'm just like, this is probably real. And this, I kind of think this.
That was my feeling, yeah.
Wait, is this the thread where Chinese civilization actually comes from ancient Egypt?
Yeah. That's like a legitimate theory that some scholars have. It's like, that one vibes with me, I like that one. No idea how well it holds up. But I like that you're doing it, and it like creates a cool historical fiction in my head. But yeah.
Yeah, that seemed to be a theme in how I view your work, like keeping like pushing people towards like, oh, what if you took that even more literally, or even more literally? As we were talking earlier about like the Romeo Stevens, all the like psycho stuff is actually literally true.
That is like an instruction I give a lot of the time. Is just like, okay, whatever's like the furthest you are able to believe about, the efficacy of somatic meditation or what the imaginal can do or whatever these other 100,000 things, just kind of like go to that edge and then test out like one step beyond that. And almost always you'll find something there that's really like valuable and useful, and then it expands a little further and a little further, and just take that one more step. Rob Berbea has the phrase of the playground at the edge.
Yeah.
I think that's for jhana practice specifically, but widely applicable thing. Just, go to the very edge, and just kind of play there and see what's possible, see what happens when you play there. And then your edge moves a little bit. Yeah.
said like that, it sounds reasonable. Sometimes the way I perceive it, how you phrase it, it sounds scarier to me. I'm like, how much should I shamble my like core beliefs, or like how far should I venture?
I would say specifically around the historical thing, like maybe be a bit more conservative than there. There's probably a fire serpent stuck in the psychoecology of like Elon Musk that's causing him to want to escape the Earth. That's historical fact, right? Right? Maybe tone down it. I believe it, but you guys don't need to. Basically, always be 5 steps less crazy than me is a good like heuristic.
Who made you? Who was 5 steps more crazy than you? Who made you?
Who did this to me? A big part was Reggie, right? Just the somatic meditation opened a lot of stuff, and yeah. And then we probably can't not blame. I had like 2 years of weekly calls with Rosa Lewis. Yeah. Talked with her weekly for a couple of years, and she gets into some further out imaginal spaces and helped pull me along. That was great. My buddy Cheryl, similar there. But yeah, basically just all the people who keep telling me to more deeply investigate direct experience. And every time I do, there's weirder and weirder stuff there. But to give like a holding container for this, what comes along with that very directly is an extremely light grip and an extremely open space within which to hold a lot of these things. So when I say there is a Mesoamerican psychotic fire serpent demon that is named Quetzalcoatl and came from the burning from the heavens and lives in all of humans' DNAs and has hijacked human culture and lives in Elon Musk's brainstem to force him to want to escape her. This is all kind of like a story that is pointing towards something that feels like it's in the collective consciousness. And yeah, there's just a whole lot of space and a whole lot of like very tongue-in-cheek, just like, oh yeah, this is like a thing that's going on, kinda. None of it is like held particularly seriously. I mean, yeah.
Do you feel like you have a framework that's consistent across, other phenomena like that? Because you identify other kinds of serpents and gods and...
No, so my basic attitude when it comes to especially imaginal stuff is what I like to refer to as ontological ambinosticism, which is essentially like just playing on not quite agnostic, but ambinostic of like...
Ambinostic?
Ambinostic, like in multiple directions. Yeah. And the way that I think of it is like how it feels is like a vast open space where both the emptiness is true and like everything is just constructed and kind of holds together very loosely and nothing is taken all that seriously, including just a lot of life and what's going on. Like your personality is just kind of one thing that's held together. My personality is just a certain gravitational attraction of what's been going on with my life. And those aren't that serious. They can fall apart and it's fine. But there's a lot of use and purpose and goodness in directly approaching them and taking them on their own terms. And both of those things are true. That's kind of my framework. And there's not like a unifying framework of all of the imaginal stuff and this type of serpent, that type of serpent, whatever else is going on.
Yet.
Yeah. No. I'm very anti that.
Would you do you think that would have been your position, before biology was a thing, in going into the Amazon and like taxonomizing all the species and so on? Do you think you would have taken the same position with regard to the rest of actual fauna instead of psychofauna? Or would
so
you have
looking
been
at actual fauna, would I have been
like? Would you say? Would you have said no? It's no use taxonomizing all the fauna. There's like unlimited diversity.
My direct experience does that already. Yeah, this has come up a few times. One of them this week with the seagulls. I was hanging out with some of the seagulls in the park, and just like hanging out with them, watching their faces, watching their eyes. It just became kind of directly clear, just like, oh, they're just little dudes, like. The little dudes, right? You can see like the anger and frustration and suspicion and like horniness chasing each other. Like it's all just there. And it sounds silly to say out loud, but there is something like in my head that is very much like, oh yeah, like drop the feathers, shorten the neck, thicken the legs, get them up. Like, it's just we're all the same type of creature with just a bunch of things tweaked, so that we all kind of look different, and they get to be extremely dumb, and we get to carry around this intelligent thing. So like I already kind of do that, where I'm just like, yeah, we're all it's a bunch of different species, and it's useful to notice where our organs are different and our behaviors mesh and mix and blah blah blah. But we're all just already the organ systems of Gaia, so like it's not that big of a deal to just notice we're all the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, probably I would have done that.
You would have done that,
Yeah, have you ever happened to see one of my hidden articles about why I quit being vegetarian?
I was gonna ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you read it?
Yeah, I think so. But
Very connected with this. Yeah. I was vegetarian and back and forth between vegetarian and vegan for 8 or 9 years there, and then just had a very intense, psychedelically inflected vision of like, basically I opened my kitchen cupboard and was like, very directly saw, oh, each of these things is my cousin. Like, we literally directly share ancestors. And even, like, the ancestral framing kind of fell away. And the image that came up was more of, like, fetal development of, like, it started off with a single cell, or in this case, a single, whatever, self-replicating RNA, whatever the hell was there. And then it divided. And eventually, like, a fetus starts dividing into skin cells over here, bone cells in here, cardiac. Yeah, they start specializing into different things. That's kind of just what the Earth did. And we've got a whole system of plants that harvest all of the energy that then the animals use. And the myco something. I'm losing my English. What are the myco things called?
Mycelium?
Fungus. I'm looking for fungus. Been out of America too long, man. But, they each kind of have their specialization, their function, and there was about 2 years there where I'd like, things flipped, and that was my direct perception was, we are all the same thing, and it's all just organ systems of the thing wrapped around this rock, basically. And then that got really, really hard to keep perceiving, and I kind of flipped back to, now I'm back to like, okay, I can more perceive just like people and plants, and I'm separate from them, and it doesn't hurt anymore. Yeah, so that very much affects still how I view a lot of this.
Yeah, as not separate, and so hard to categorize and make frameworks about.
Yeah, and just the direct experience of, this is all the same thing, like, and that's not a particularly woo thing. It's just a different frame on the facts of the matter arranged in a way that we don't usually arrange it. Yeah.
Can I ask you about, so changing the subject a bit. You referred to Medley. It was like a residency that happened in Berlin a couple of years ago as an interpersonal microwave.
I stole that term from someone. I don't remember who.
No worries.
But good term.
Interpersonal microwave, which means, you're there and you're purposefully interacting with people, hoping to get triggered, or not hoping, but,
back then,
open to... At least, but right now, at least open to getting triggered and, like, examining your stuff as a sort of, like, exercise. And, you're also working on some of your stuff. You're having calls, you're teaching courses while you're here at Portal. But, I'm curious, does the interpersonal microwave stuff feel like the most high leverage thing you can be doing?
Interesting. Does it feel like the most? Yeah.
Yeah, more than writing, for example.
I write constantly. Like, finding a place and time to write is not a problem for me. Yeah. So, coming here and writing would be, I don't know, to me it feels like the equivalent of like going to India and eating McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it feels incredibly high leverage. Like, coming out of Medley, I remember half-jokingly pitching, like, Trigger Camp 2024 to a bunch of people. It's like, we could do it. We could all just come together and, like, bug the shit out of each other for a month. And, that was my whole attitude coming here. Was I'm not going to have a project. I'm just going to I'm going to find something that triggers me. And it took a couple weeks, but we got there. I finally got to the triggering. It's nice. Which, yeah, I was delayed on all of you people. You all got triggered very much earlier than me, but I was not a part of the early drama. And yeah, it feels incredibly high leverage, especially a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Wait, so your question was like for him to do, like to be triggered, or like you mean in his work to facilitate that problem?
No. I meant for River specifically, and I guess how would you express the value that you get from that?
Yeah. So I had a talk with Johnny Miller the other day where we were talking basically about kind of this, where he was asking about signs for development and growth and stuff, and when you know you're actually kind of going somewhere, basically. And for me, one of the biggest signs was that you're not really like holding yourself up and holding yourself together around just like, yes, I feel so like happy and blessed and it's great. And it's when you just feel like shit and you feel defeated and you feel like you fucked up and it's just gotten bad. And that's when something breaks and like forces you into another mode of being or into seeing something that you really did not want to see. And that's really hard to do interpersonally. If you're alone, you can't do it alone. You can't find the stuff that's going to, the stuff you're hiding from yourself, essentially. And then it's really hard to do around people because that's incredibly fucking vulnerable to just be like, everyone show me where I'm wrong about shit and where I'm too armored or too vulnerable or too whatever. But yeah, you kind of just gotta do it, and it feels really fucked up and really, sad, lonely, all the bad things. But I got a really good like lesson out of Medley where it felt really bad when I was there a lot of the time. And then I left and I couldn't stop like noticing and working on these patterns that had gotten latched and activated there. And now, like Brent was there and I'm seeing him again for the first time in a year and a half since then. And when we started hanging out here in Porto, he's just like, oh, you're like much less armored and like looser now. It's good to like see you seeming healthier and more interpersonal. It's like, okay, good. That worked then. And hopefully another 6-8 months I'll have unlatched something else that needed to come loose. But seeing it work after it feeling so like fucked up and hopeless kind of made me, a little addicted to wanting more of the fuck me up, guys. And then I'll sort it out and we'll see how I'm doing in a couple of years and maybe it won't fuck me up as much anymore. Do you feel like you became wiser, more free? I'm very wise.
No, but wiser.
Even wiser than the oath. Damn. No, I don't know. I'm 33, man. Like, I ain't got that much wisdom to hang around, but of what I do have, like, it spread some wisdom to other areas where I did not have them at all. Like, most of my life, and especially, I feel like my skill tree or my character sheet skill levels or whatever, interpersonal has always been one of my lower ones. And it was, I don't know, it was fairly high when I was younger, but it was entirely built on lack of integrity, lying, pretending to be someone. So once I broke that one down, I was like, oh, I don't know how to authentically be with people, like at all. And I had to just start from zero. And Medley was like a very painful look at, oh, right, I'm not good at this. And like, I would really want to be good at it, but I am a failure at this thing entirely. And now coming back in, like, a couple people have told me, as I've said, that like, I have no skill points on interpersonal stuff. A couple of people have been like, that might be an outdated belief that you want to like tuck away, actually. And that's been, very heartening to hear. Like, okay, the process is working. I'm getting better at it. And again, we'll see where it goes in a couple of years, because I've got a lot of stuff to work on now that has come up here, and it's great.
Oh man, I'm so curious about it, but you've told us not to ask about it.
Yeah, it's not my stuff to tell, really. And for anyone who's listening to this who was involved and knows who they are, like, very grateful for all of this. There's zero bitterness or whatever. Like, I have loved all of this. This is why I came here.
So I don't feel super curious about the medley one anymore.
Cool.
I wonder if you have like questions about different topics.
About different topics?
Yeah, we might also want to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Some we talked naturally. I wrote stuff about like relationship with animals, veganism stuff, interpersonal stuff. Does this like I don't know, how can I ask these questions? I think okay. Feel like the way you present your work, at least superficially online and stuff like that, like it feels like you have like some sense of like life mission or goal or like poeticism, poetry around that or something like that. Does these like big hurtful changes that you go through or something like that change that, like where you're heading? It's not really well asked, but do you see this question, your work, or like how does this change the missions you're trying to?
Do you want to try rewording it? I was going to reflect.
No, so the way I tried rewording it, and you can tell me if it's right or wrong. The part that jumped out at me. Do these big like reworkings of your personality that come after interpersonal microwaves? Do they destabilize your work or like your stated mission or your present trajectory?
Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the right direction.
Destabilize them, no. Affect them pretty strongly. Okay. They feel like a part of the same process, basically, where like there's certain stuff that needs to unfold, certain stuff that some of it is just like certain capacities that I need to do whatever is coming next, and then recognizing, oh, I don't have those capacities, and it's going to be really rough to build them. Let's go build them, I guess. And yeah, not just the interpersonal microwave stuff, like this whole year of just like getting chronic illness and having like the serotonin syndrome going on, and relationship of 5 years like breaking up and that falling apart. All of that has been like, while I'm going through it, even has been a big part of just like, oh, this is what needs to happen, I guess. And it sucks and I hate it and everything is weird and it's been a terrible few months. And it has also been just like really gorgeous the way that a lot of it has unfolded, the way that it has ended up. Like, I think it was within like a week or so of the breakup, like pretty soon after the breakup, there was just like a thing in my head that I heard of like, oh, that was the last one. Like everything has fallen apart this year. That was the last thing that needed to fall apart. We're done now. It's okay. And I think within a week or so, like Portal became a thing.
Wow.
And got invited.
Yeah,
and then very quickly after that, it was like, one of my friends was coming to Europe. I'm like, hey, we need to meet up. Let's go to Berlin. Oh, that's right after Tree Week, so I'll go to Tree Week. Oh, actually, let's do this thing in France, and we'll go there. My entire year filled up within about 2 to 3 weeks of that breakup after, 6 months of just decay and everything falling apart from me. And yeah, so they don't feel like separate processes. It feels like every time something breaks down, breaks apart, every time I get fucked up and have to rebuild something, that is the same process unfolding and kind of showing me where it needs to go. Like, the stuff that it's breaking up is the direction that it needs to head, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting the image of like a ship in the Arctic, like shattering the ice to just inch forward.
Toward the pole.
Yeah.
Huh. It reminded me of like another question / topic here was here you've brought a poetry book. I've heard you like recite poems and and I think a lot of your like buzzwords are like mythopoetic and stuff like that. I don't know if I have I will phrase it badly and let's see if something comes out of that again. It's like, yeah, what does it mean for you to be a poet or like what's up with your enjoyment of poetry?
Yeah.
What do you...
I've talked with Russell about this a fair bit as well. There's kind of just a current beneath everything, the Tao of creativity or something, and people tap into it in different ways. But when you hear people talk, you can often tell that they're not just talking about their portion of it. So like artists, for example, when they talk about art and when they really get into just like art is like this flow of creation and this divine muse and blah, they're not just talking about paint on a canvas or lines on a thing, right? Musicians do this as well, like hearing the music, the flow getting into, they're not just talking about sounds arranged in time. And my side of that is mostly poetry and story, where like, it's not so much even about words or ideas, character, like any of this stuff. There is something in the current, in the Tao, that wants to bubble up in that particular way. And that's kind of my way of touching back in with it. That's the road that I have is through words. And when I'm in good alignment with my way of finding words and letting things become words, that gives me access to like the eros, the flow, the Tao, the thing underneath all of it. So that's kind of what it means to me. It's just that's my corner and my entryway to under beingness.
Is that how you write? Like you say, I couldn't prevent myself from writing. Is that like you have like sometimes like an itch of like, oh, I need to? Is that like what's the phenomenology of your of your writing?
Yeah, like I'm constantly itching to write. It's not a sometimes thing. Yeah, there is a very particular feeling, and yeah, I've talked about this with other writers. It seems very, very common of like when something comes out really well, and you're like in the flow, and you can feel it, and the readers can feel it, and it just hits. But then there's also a lot of times where like you're in the flow for most of it, you're getting it, you're going, and then something is not quite right. And what you do right at that point seems really critical. For me, I mostly, when I have the self-control, I try to hold it back and wait for like the final piece to come in. And almost always, if I wait a couple weeks, a couple months, someone will say some random bit of something where I'm like, that was it. That was the final piece that belongs in this essay, and now it's perfect and it's out there and I got it. When I'm impatient, I just go like, that's good enough, and push and publish. And usually it does not go as well with people reading it. It doesn't feel as good with me.
That's cool.
The closest phenomenology is basically to like a ruined orgasm, where like, that could have been so good. We were almost there, and then it was fine. It was fine. But yeah, that's basically the phenomenology there.
Do you write fiction?
Yeah, not publicly.
Not really clear.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not very much a short fiction person, and I have a tendency to start fiction and then it expands and expands and expands, and then it just becomes unwieldy, and like it seems to have done what it needed to do for me. So then I drop it, and the urge is gone to polish it and shape it and put it in the world. Yeah, the medium zone for me seems to be about essay length, where there's enough where I really want to work on it and I can craft it and shape it. But yeah, I want to move towards longer soon as part of my next year. But yeah, the fiction is mostly all just on my hard drive and on a hidden page on my website, if you can find it. I'm just like trying.
The maze of River's websites.
Always a maze of websites. Yeah.
I don't feel complete yet.
What about that? Would you have to go in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's a soft out, but like within the next 9 to 15 minutes. Should be out.
You have a sense of what feels lacking?
No. Wait, let me...
Do you?
Oh yeah, Is there anything else you wanna add?
What's lacking or wrong in this interview?
Or missing? Or we complete it, round it out.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, not much I can do on that one. The only thing that feels missing is because we've talked about the interpersonal microwave situation, like my current one is like very present with me and feels very unaddressed.
Yeah.
But that's just going to stay unaddressed.
Yeah.
But you feel hopeful about your ability to process it?
Oh yeah, it's already been starting. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What are your plans? You said your whole year filled up.
Yeah. Yeah, at the moment I have to go back to Albania, sell everything I own, and get the hell out of Albania. And then it's homeless wandering for the rest of the year. First stop is France. I've got an imaginal retreat with, Rosa and Cheryl and Tucker and some other folks down at Life Itself in Bergerac. From there, I think I'm going to try to get to Berlin. It's going to depend on, like, who's there by the time I'm ready to travel, basically. I also have an invite to Vienna I hope to take up, but we'll see how scheduling goes. And then the main thing is, I'm going to an Ayurvedic hospital in India, and I'm going to spend a month or two there.
And you're going in winter, what season is it?
It was originally supposed to be I go there in October, and I'm there till like December or January, something like that. Now the plan has shifted, so it's much more flexible. I could just fly out tomorrow and go to the thing. I could go right after France. I could spend a couple months in Berlin and hang out. Actually, no, my visa wouldn't last that long, but that's another issue. But yeah, I can kind of go anywhere, do anything. And then the trail dead ends after India.
Mm-hmm.
So the same way that my whole year just like filled up within a week or two, I'm kind of hoping the universe just tells me where to go after India.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this feels similar to my 20s when I would just drop myself somewhere. Like, all right, I'm in Bangkok and I have my backpack and 6 months to spare. Tell me where to go. And it did, to like a truly absurd degree. I just kind of step into the stream and the next thing happens and the next thing pulls me and so on. I'm kind of hoping that continues to click on. Otherwise, I have to like choose where I go after India, and that's unbearable.
Interesting.
It would probably be Berlin at this point, but we'll see what happens when I end up there.
You don't like making decisions. Oh, is like your intuition, stuff like that, and like the divination tool, stuff like that, a common way you avoid making decisions?
Honestly, for the last few years, like, it feels less like I'm making decisions and more like just, the Eros just tells me where to go, what to do, what needs to be done.
That's probably right.
And I just kind of do it, and it's nice. And now what I've got for the past month or so has been much more like the Eros is just kind of standing next to me, just like staring silently, like, come on, you can figure this out. You're a big boy. I'm like, no, keep telling me. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, see how long that keeps up.
Is there one thing you feel particularly in your work, the things you have published, talked about, you feel particularly consistently misunderstood?
Yeah, not a specific thing. I will say, I think I've talked about this before a couple times, but more recently, the past year and a half, I've had more people coming in, because, since I started writing, the main piece of feedback I've got in is just like, I love your work, love how you write, love what you're talking about. Not sure what you're talking about a lot of the time. Like, really clarify that for me. What the fuck do you mean? And more so the past year, people have been coming in with like, hey, I felt that way when I started reading your stuff, and like maybe even contacted you with like, I love it, but what the hell do you mean? And now they're coming in saying like, I've practiced, I've done a certain amount of this work, and now I feel bad because I can see you were being like as clear as was possible. And that has felt, it's felt like there's been a lot of misunderstanding. Not if like they think I mean something different, but just they don't know what the fuck I mean by it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not possible.
And it's been nice to get people coming in like, okay, I see it now. It was frustrating, but I see it now.
That sucks. We were kind of talking about that, like, let's say, last Sunday or then last week we had a discussion where like we talked about like left brain and right brain, and I was saying you were like translating what you River was saying in like your own frame and stuff like that. And after that, I think I talked with Chick and I was like, there's still something frustrating because it feels River is saying something stronger than what you say. And in the moment you're like saying, when Chick is like making his translation, you're saying, yeah, it's basically that. But I don't feel that's basically that, but it feels like it's either you can't or don't want, or...
I mean, yeah, so this kind of ties back to the poetry thing. I'm good. Where, like, yeah, so there are, I'm just going to use douchey language here, it's fine. There are the words that emerged from the Tao, and then there is the eternal Tao, right? And David Hinton talks about this a lot, especially with, like, classical Chinese poetry, where there's a split in absence and presence, where, like, the 10,000 things emerge concomitantly with the names of the 10,000 things. Like, everything is one singular fabric, but like this pillow, at the same time that it is named and the word comes for it, that happens at the same place and point in the Tao as the pillow itself becomes noticeable as a separate thing, one of the 10,000 things. So what is coming up here is like, no matter what you can say about what I'm saying, if it's not like coming from the Tao, it is missing that like heft, essentially. Because my best writing is, when I'm just like plugged in and like, okay, it's here, let's do it. And then if I try, like, people ask me to clarify later, I'm like, it's kind of this, but also those words don't mean anything because, like, I'm not saying it in the plugged in way. That was the plugged in way, and that's why you're having trouble with it. Yeah.
Shortly, is there also another reason, like a sense of like safety? Like it's more dangerous in some ways to, like, people say that for like meditation stuff, like I don't know, it's dangerous to like have all the answers led out to you and like practice without guidance, and like if you're too direct about like some teaching, it can fuck you up in some way.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and for me, the main left and right hemisphere of the brain is a really good way to point at this. Of like, if you just like really lock down and say like, okay, I will explain as clearly as possible, directly, step by step, what to do here. Left hemisphere grabs onto that and thinks it knows what it is, thinks it can plug it into its world system and what it knows, which it can't, right? And that's the danger, is thinking that you know what it is before you know what it is. Think it like practicing and approaching it in such a way where you're like, yes, I know this. I know where to put this in my world system. Because then it can't break open your world system, right? And that's the whole right hemisphere-y, Tao-y, whatever thing. It's just like vast open experiential space that is beyond words. And if whatever you're doing isn't like putting you there, then it's bad. Or not bad. It's not what I'm trying to do, right?
You want to have the right hemisphere be the base mode, like the default mode.
Master and emissary.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the master. Right?
Yeah, you want to have the right one be the master.
Yeah. And when it's not, things get weird.
I think that's the perfect way to
There we go.
to end it.
All right.
The right brain should be the master, and when it's not, things get weird.
Beware, kids.
Onward to the next call.
Thank you, River.
Thanks for coming, River.
Yeah.
Of course. Thanks for setting up the recording room and all of this.
Thanks, Yanni.